Broadcasting.
Jason, we have been watching wrestling, professional wrestling, long enough to know what a fake retirement looks like. I would think Cody Rhodes has been around long enough to recognize a ruse. How did you feel about what we just watched there? Jason, I think you just unmuted. Were you able to hear me? There you go. Yep.
No, yeah, I'm good. Nothing's ever going to be as good as the Mark Henry retirement. That was classic. But there was a part of me that was suckered in here. I mean, there was, especially with a little bit of emotion with Gallows and Anderson. I kind of bought into it, and I kept waiting for that moment. And I'm like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is the one time they're going to pull off an actual retirement.
I was so skeptical from the very beginning, and then they got closer to the end, and there was a smidgen of, well, I mean, maybe not tonight. Maybe they're saving it for later. AJ's going to take some time off, come back. I don't know. But I do have to say, I remained healthily skeptical. I was shouting for AJ, or for Cody, to not turn his back on AJ, just in case. I also was very much hoping that I was very much hoping that Mark Henry was going to walk out onto the screen, onto the stage, and just applaud AJ's performance, given that he's got the most famous turn ever.
Yeah. It was, I thought they did a very good job playing it up throughout the entire show to the point where it really had a little bit of legitimacy to it.
Yeah. Yep. I think AJ's performance was very earnest. It was convincing, with some quotes around it, because it's pro wrestling, and you really have to be convincing to sway anyone to let their guard down. I think one thing that helped too is the crowd was very much into it. They sincerely were rooting for AJ and seemed to be feeling as if this not only was a real retirement, but there were emotions attached, that they felt like AJ had earned the right to have this moment and to have the fans embrace him and accept it. So if you can pull that off and make it work, then you've kind of got to earn it, because wrestling fans have watched long enough to know this kind of thing is a swerve. There are probably quite a few people in the crowd yelling at Cody not to believe him, and yelling at fans for believing it. But I think as time went on, like you said, even some of the skeptics in the crowd who might have been on guard were thinking this might be it. This might be it. So the key was, it was well done for something that otherwise could have felt really predictable. And in the end, I guess my only critique was, I felt like Cody got a little too emotional with the voice cracking and welling up. I think I could have done with that being toned down a little bit from Cody, because that part actually was, I won't say the least sincere, but it felt the most maudlin, the most overdone of anything. I thought Styles and Anderson and Gallows were really good. Jason, are we on a pretty bad delay here with you?
I'm getting a kind of a delay on your speech. Yes.
Yeah. Are you listening through a headset or earpiece? I can't tell from your video.
No. I'm over my speakers on the computer.
Okay, that might be why. So we'll just deal with that.
Let me see. I don't know if I can. So I was going to say, I'm see if I can get this up and running here.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do is take a look at a couple comments here in the chat room and see if you setting up earbuds will help with the delay. Kevin, that's weird. I know who that is. Said I was too distracted by Cody's Kentucky Derby outfit personally. And He added, if Cody had said he was going to call Mama Rhodes, I would have bought it more. That is good. That is Peter Young. That is not related to our conversation here, but it's still fun. Azan White says AJ and Cody to showcase SmackDown kind of weak on the heel side right now. Yeah, I mean, I think Azan, that is a concern. AJ, if he was going to be a heel and continue on as a top heel on SmackDown, they needed something to add some heat and edge to what AJ is doing as a heel. I still think it feels a bit like a retread of a match that we already got. However, if you're going to try to set up heat, a well done retirement angle that taps into fans' emotions and gets fans genuinely upset, I think is probably it's in the higher end of things that you can do. Jason, I can hear you. Can you still hear me? We are new to our live YouTube studio setup here, and that applies to me, as you guys have seen in last week if you've joined us live. It also applies to our co-hosts who are going to be new to this for a little bit, and we're going to figure it all out as we go. And Jason is trying to reconnect himself right now. But as we continue to talk here, I will look for some comments. And Ken said AJ Styles was solid tonight. He corrected his typo later. Cody was a little over the top with the emotion, but I'm definitely looking forward to what will be a match at Clash at the Castle, unless they want to hold off until Money in the Bank. And yeah, I mean, Clash at the Castle, if they want to have 2 title matches, then I think Cody and Styles in a rematch can be a secondary title defense. I think one of the questions is, will it work? In terms of, well, it works the wrong phrase, but is Styles, even with this angle tonight and his history, is he strong enough of an opponent for Cody? I think at this stage of Cody's career, or I should say this stage of his title reign, I am a little worried in terms of strength of opponent for Cody that until we get to SummerSlam, it feels a little secondary. I mean, Logan Paul was good, but it obviously in Saudi Arabia, it didn't feel like it was going to be a title change. And I don't think anybody's going to think that Styles is actually a threat to beat Cody. So I'm a little worried that weakens. This feels more like a grudge match that could happen without a title on the line, although certainly Styles set the foundation for this angle by saying he doesn't want to be someone who starts at the back of the line, that he just can't do that. At this stage of his career, which I thought was a good setup, and that did give him a reason for not wanting to wait in line, I guess would be the way to put it. Jason, what do you think about that approach that Styles had, that it's having to go to the back of the line that set him off, and that he felt at this point in his career in life he couldn't do that?
I thought that at one point, he was going to say, listen, I'm going to retire, but I want one last match. It doesn't have to be for the title. I thought it was going to be a mutual respect thing between Cody and AJ. Mm-hmm. But I thought it played out well. Like I said, I agree with you. I don't see AJ Styles as a serious threat to be the guy to dethrone Cody this early in his reign.
Is this too weak of a challenger, or does this angle cover that base?
Too weak of a challenger, I think. Nothing against AJ Styles, but again, I just don't think that he was kind of damaged for a while, and then he just had this heel turn, and then they tried to make it seem like, oh, he's going to retire and he's going to go out a good guy. It just seemed like the heel turn happened too recently for them to just kind of sweep it under the rug. I don't see him as a legitimate contender. I agree. I think it's more of a grudge match than anything else.
Yeah. I think the end game might be leading to a Nick Aldis AJ Styles feud. That's an interesting twist. I don't have any inside knowledge on whether Nick Aldis ultimately plans to wrestle or not. Do you think AJ Styles is the right opponent for Aldis if they end up going that direction? If Aldis is, because I could see Nick Aldis, who very much likes to be in control and doesn't want, you can tell he doesn't want to be disrespected, does he take issue with what Styles did? I mean, at this point, Cody basically the way this works in pro wrestling is now Nick Aldis ought to threaten to fine and suspend Styles, not reward him for this. And then Cody Rhodes has to demand a match and say, no, I want him in the ring. And Styles says, well, you don't get me in the ring unless I get a title shot or something along those lines. You want Aldis should step up and threaten to suspend Styles, not reward him. But I could see Aldis, as Paul is pointing out, being upset with being played. And that could maybe lead to a Styles Aldis match later this summer, perhaps even at SummerSlam.
Or maybe, something like a Hell in the Cell matchup or something that, has the higher stake than just a regular match, even if it's something like a steel cage match. But yeah, I like the idea of all this Styles a lot.
Yeah. I want to note to people in our chat room, if you are a VIP member, if you go to PWTorchVIP.com and go to my SmackDown report, there is a code just for VIP members that will allow you to enter the waiting room and be brought onto the show live. You can have your cam on or off. If you want to do audio only, that's fine. I know some people don't want to be on camera for whatever reason. But that invite link is there for VIP members. So we'll keep an eye on the waiting room. If you want to, just fill out your name on the form as you enter the waiting room to be on the show. I don't know how many VIP members we have watching us at this time, but wanted to throw that out there because we are new on this. Jason, what do you think about Nick Aldis as a potential wrestler? I mean, 5 years ago he was fighting Cody at the first All In, and I think he's a fantastic general manager. He has and I think he's a good contrast for Adam Pearce, because Adam Pearce comes across as that perfect nervous middle manager who's just sweating bullets all the time. He just wants to keep his job and not upset his superiors. Nick Aldis has this aura of credibility and authority that, for somebody who doesn't have a lot of background in WWE, he conveys really effectively. I think if he establishes this persona over time and then actually has a first match at some point, WWE's current audience, which includes a lot of people who just aren't familiar with his background, they may Google it, they might not. I think they're going to pop for that and be interested in it. I don't know that Styles is, and I hate to say this because I respect the hell out of Styles' in-ring career and what he's accomplished, but I don't know if Styles is a big enough name for that. I almost think it should be a Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa type moment for him.
I've only seen a handful of Aldis matches, but I've heard that even when they hired him, they said the guy can still go. So it's not something that he can't get into the ring if need be. I would love to see him in the ring, but the general manager role is perfect for him. And like you said, he's a tough guy. He's not someone who gets pushed around like Pearce does. And he looks the part. He's like a James Bond character, the way he dresses, the way he talks. And that authoritative figure, we've been so ruined with the evil general managers. To have a fair one, it's fantastic.
Absolutely. Okay, let's just introduce ourselves briefly here for those who are going to listen to us on delay on our podcast. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post-Show for Friday, May 31st, 2024. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, the editor, publisher, and founder of Pro Wrestling Torch, the website, the newsletter, and the host of various podcasts. We have a whole array of free podcasts. If you're watching us on YouTube and aren't subscribing to our podcast lineup, I recommend you search Wade Keller in your podcast app, and that'll bring up a red logo and a blue logo. And we, at that point, invite you to subscribe for free. The Blue Logo Show features the weekly flagship edition, some flashback episodes, other special episodes. And yesterday, Todd Martin was my co-host on the flagship, and we covered a wide array of topics. So I encourage all of you who are discovering us or rediscovering us on YouTube to not miss out on the flagship. There is a lot of content on our podcast feeds, even with some overlapping like this show, that are podcast feed exclusive because they're not on camera. So search Wade Keller, subscribe to the Blue Logo Show, and then subscribe to the Red Logo Show, which will include flashback shows and also occasional extra content on the podcast side of things. You can also search PWTorch for access to the PWTorch Daily Cast, which is free with a different show each day of the week, covering a different focus like AEW, NXT, WWE, and more. My co-host is Jason Goodspeed. He is a contributor to PWTorch. Jason, you haven't been a co-host before. You haven't been on cam with us before. It's great to have you on the show, and it's great. One of the things I love about our mix of co-hosts that I have the pleasure of doing shows with is the wide array of different backgrounds and different lengths of time people have been watching wrestling. And I have a hint. I have I have a feeling that people watching right now know you've been watching for quite a while, like I have.
Yeah, I hate to admit how many years I've watched, but it was I think my first introduction to wrestling was in 82 or 83, World Class Championship Wrestling, and
what a great time.
It's just because, I mean, there have been times when I've stepped away from it because I didn't think the product was what it could be, especially in some of the 90s years, but I'm back into it, and I think like this new era they're going through, I've enjoyed the storytelling. I've enjoyed the people. It's just, I think it's a more well-crafted show. And it's one of these things now where I find myself not missing it. Whereas before I'd be like, well, it's like a soap opera. I missed an episode. I'll get caught up next week. But yeah, I usually am right there watching the big three, SmackDown, Raw, and NXT for the WWE.
I'm going back to you saying when you started watching World Class Championship Wrestling and what a great time to get pulled in to professional wrestling that was. That was right around the time I started. Maybe you started watching World Class a little before I did. Where were you based out
of? Well, when I first moved here to Rutland, Vermont, it was the first time we had cable television, and it was WRGB Channel 6 out of Albany. Used to run it on Saturday mornings, and I can remember it being the early 80s because I was still in grade school, and it was a Saturday morning tradition that I used to watch with my buddies. And I got into it. I want to say 82 or 83, but that was the big names. I could go back now. I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but I could list probably 50 or 60 wrestlers right off the top of my head that I grew up watching in World Class.
And they had the best entrance theme songs and the most passionate fans right alongside, I would say, the Rock and Roll Express at their peak, Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA at their peak. I'm sure other people who watched other territories would make counterclaims. I mean, I think the passion that the World Class fans had at the Sportatorium for the Von Erichs and the heat that the Freebirds got and Jimmy Garvin and Sunshine, just top level fan enthusiasm. Those clips are worth seeking out on YouTube.
It's a good launching pad.
Yes, absolutely. So check that out, people, if you haven't yet. Jason, tell people more about what you're doing for the Torch these days.
I'm sorry, I missed your question, Wade. Could you repeat that, please?
Sure. Yeah, but I know we got an internet delay here. Tell people what you're doing for the Torch these days.
Well, I do the NXT hits or misses. I try to do the SmackDown hits and misses as much as I can. But yeah, I try to contribute where I can. I'm always open to an opinion article here and there if it was something that, well, people want to hear my opinion. But by writing about it, talking about it, and getting passionate about it.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's shift to another topic from tonight's show, which is the latest with the Bloodline. And I'm very interested to hear what people in the comments sidebar have to say to us here. We'll throw your comments up. If you want to, by the way, say something a little more lengthy for us to get to as the show progresses, you can email us at wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening to us on our podcast side of things on delay, but you want to be part of the show and not be left out, I recommend after Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, well, during the show or right afterwards, you can drop us an email, and we'll always be checking that inbox and reading your questions and comments. So the Bloodline's developments tonight, I found real intriguing. The announcers are really leaning into the idea of, can we trust that Paul Heyman is not, or that he is sincere in being fearful of Solo and his crew, and that he really is warning Kevin Owens out of earnestness and sincerity as opposed to something else. And I mean, there's a lot of different theories I think an average viewer can have for what's going on with Paul Heyman and Solo and Roman. Jason, I'll throw to you. What do you think of the developments tonight, and where do you think this does end up? My leaning is Heyman's sincere. It doesn't mean I know exactly the path they're going to take and where they're going to land, but that Heyman is genuinely fearful of Tonga and Loa, and that they are out of control. He said they did background checks. They're too violent. I love Heyman saying, our violence under Roman Reigns was for a purpose. This violence seems random and without purpose. He's making too compelling of a case for me to think that it's not a sincere argument, and that when Roman shows up, he's going to be with Heyman as a babyface, and Heyman will be essentially his babyface manager. But I'm definitely not ruling out other possibilities. And I thought KO and Heyman, understandably and not surprisingly, were really good in the ring playing off each other. I loved when Owens said, I can't trust you, Paul. How could you expect me to trust you? Heyman's like, well, how could anyone trust you either? Come on. You've turned on so many people also. So Jason, what did you think of that segment, and where do you think it's headed?
Let me start off by saying that I did not think they would get extra mileage out of the Bloodline group. But since they turned it over to Solo Sikoa, I think he plays an incredible leader. Has his hair slicked back, and with the Haku's two sons here, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. I love the viciousness of it. That reminds me a lot of, going back to the Wild Samoans. And so Heyman's words about, this is just violence for the sake of violence, I thought was awesome. I think this is going to be something that is going to happen for the WWE that they wanted to happen for a long time, and that's Roman as a babyface. They pushed him all those years, and it just never clicked. But people are cheering for this guy. This guy, they used to hate his guts, and already they want him to come back. And I could see like a bloodline civil war coming out of this.
They hated Roman Reigns when they weren't supposed to. They hated him when they were supposed to. And the bloodline civil war, I think, could be just a stellar storyline. What I like about this is I have my hunch of where it's going. And I think it's one of multiple viable paths they can take, but I don't know exactly how they're going to get there. I'm not ruling out the possibility that there's not going to be a twist where they do go a different direction with it. And I like that. I think the announcers playing into it is leading the average fan to speculate and argue with their friends online or in person about, can we trust Heyman here or not? And I could imagine fellow fans, brother and a sister watching SmackDown, or two friends texting each other, taking opposite sides, whether he can be trusted. And Ken Arnold mentioned in the chat area here, I think Paul Heyman is being genuine, but he has to still kiss up to Solo and knows that if he crosses Solo, he'll get violently beaten down. And Azan says, does Roman return as a babyface right away? I agree that Heyman is believable in his nervousness, and if that is sincere and he's not at all secretly with Solo or anything like that, it's adding to the edge that the new bloodline and Solo's crew have. And so then it comes down to if Heyman is that nervous to cross Solo, I thought last week his body language and facial expression showed that he was running out of patience with Solo and that he was considering trying a different approach. This week, he stepped up to Solo a little bit more, made his case verbally, but did so with, respect and trepidation. So where do you think this leads with Paul, Jason? Does Paul eventually cross Solo when Solo beats him down? And that's when probably the next week, Roman Reigns shows up?
Yeah, I could see it going that way. I think it would be interesting to see a babyface Paul Heyman for a little while. I think maybe he had a couple of moments with Brock Lesnar when Lesnar was kind of over, and but I think Heyman is one of the most underrated actors in wrestling today. The range of emotions he can show, that he can go from abject fear to like aggressive like behavior, the way he speaks, the way he conveys his emotions, and then it's like someone who loses their temper, and then when they're confronted with it, they get very like, they back off and they're very meek and mild, and he plays that so well. It's almost seamless, and I think that it is probably going to be. He's going to run afoul of this version of the bloodline, and I think you're going to start to see some of these guys come back. I don't know if they'll lead right with Roman Reigns first. You might see a Jimmy Uso come back, or I just think there's so many routes they could take with this. I love it because I never know what to expect, and that's what makes the storylines in wrestling so great. It should always be a mystery, and you should never have the answer handed to you.
Yeah, I think that there are times when wrestling promotions try to be arbitrarily unpredictable, and they don't have the storyline depth and layering and acting to pull it off. And in this case, I think there is, again, the most likely path, but enough doubt and then great acting to make it work. Ken Arnold says, I think it'll be quite the moment when Heyman gets beaten down in front of Roman, but Reigns is beaten down and cuffed to the ropes and forced to watch helplessly. It'll be huge. A YouTube user says Heyman is pure gold. And I mean, such a big part of this is everybody's performance. Azan says at the end of the day, does Paul turn on Roman? And I save that comment for now because Heyman obviously is loyal to Roman, but Heyman might be better as a heel manager. So I'm trying to process the possibility that could everything be an act with Heyman and it's a performance for Roman? And so when Roman returns, all that we're seeing from Heyman is a way to lure Roman into the trap of being left vulnerable and beaten down by Solo and his crew because Heyman was with him all along. The other option is Heyman isn't with them now, but something happens where Heyman resents Roman not returning his calls, not being in touch with him or something like that. And then that leads to some sort of a blow up. So all these possibilities are out there, and the idea of Heyman with Roman makes sense to me and can work, but the idea that this is a ruse by Heyman all along to lure Roman into the trap also, I think, can have quite the payoff. The problem is that's a swerve, and pro wrestling does too many swerves. We saw one tonight with AJ Styles. And so I would want some distance between that angle and this week, so it doesn't feel like, oh, another phony, insincere moment before a turn. Jason, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, look at the storytelling of the bloodline for the past few years. There was drips and drizzles, and you always wanted more, and they never had huge payoffs right away. You had to wait. You had to patiently wait to see where it was going to take it. The storyline, and then when they added Sami Zayn, it was like, where did this wrinkle come from? This was not even on my radar that they're going to put this guy with the bloodline, and that started a brand new path. So I would be shocked if this has any kind of culmination until maybe is next year. I could see this kind of leading up to a massive WrestleMania moment.
Absolutely. I mean, I was skeptical, and I still am to a degree, that the average viewer won't see this as a huge drop off without Roman and Rock after WrestleMania. On the Acknowledged WWE podcast with Kevin Nuckett and Charlie Kate, they were talking, I think Charlie especially was talking about how few wrestlers there are who are on WrestleMania and top matches who are even still around. It's like Cody. There's just so many people who aren't around right now. And we're kind of in this reboot rev up stage of WWE post WrestleMania. And so it's a real heavy lift to get a group with Solo and Tonga and Loa anywhere near the level of where the Usos and Roman were. especially when you added Rock to the mix. But they're starting to win me over a bit here in terms of this being a really good sequel. And I think you mentioned that earlier. I'm not saying that they'll be able to top it, but I think it's different enough. And they've wisely, no pun intended with Wise Man, but wisely set up Solo, Tonga, and Loa as being different. And they've used the term savage and uncontrolled and violent without a purpose. They've given them verbally an edge. And then, the key is make sure that gets backed up in the ring with what they're able to perform in the ring. Jason, your thoughts on this kind of post WrestleMania build from the ground up, the sequel version of the Bloodline?
That's what I think makes it incredible. Like I mentioned earlier, a quick payoff always seems to be disappointing. And I agree, the way that they're portraying Tama and Loa as these guys, we didn't want to hire them because they're so violent. And it was only because Solo brought them in. They have created a mystique and air about these guys for people that may not even know them. They have an image now. They may not have ever seen them wrestle in New Japan or whatever, but they have this aura about them, and people want to see them more, because what else can I expect from these guys that are like so brutal and savage? I love it. I love the addition of those two guys. It has been a surprising, fun time for me in this Bloodline next chapter, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes and how it plays out.
So my question to you is focusing for a moment on Solo. We've talked a lot about Heyman. We've talked about the group. How is Solo doing in terms of coming across to you, Jason, as somebody who can be in the eyes of the general WWE audience, an opponent who stands opposite of Roman Reigns credibly as a threat? Because it has to be the goal right now. The goal has to be, we need Solo, and they built him so carefully with him, crossing his arms and not really seeming like a sycophant for Roman and the Usos. But in the ring and the way he's dressing, the way he's carrying himself, do you think they're building the foundation for him? And of course, there's a long way to go. Heyman could be on his side. He could turn on Heyman. That can get a lot of heel heat. There's a lot of story yet to tell, but where do you think he is is he on a trajectory to being a suitable threat to Roman in a one-on-one match in the eyes of fans?
I think more so than he was 6 months ago. I felt there was a period of time where he was starting to get like hurt as far as like his image. He was losing matches he probably shouldn't have lost, and or when he would, it was disqualification finishes or something. He was never, when they first brought him in, he was like sold as this, this bulldozer, this guy that reminded me a lot of Umaga in the presentation that they had. And I thought when they didn't really dress him up, when he had his, the wild blonde hair, he looked like a pit bull that you would sick on somebody. But then when he took over this ownership of the Bloodline, he fits the part. He looks like a Godfather-esque character, the suits, the slick back hair. I think the black gloves, I think it's a silly thing to focus on, but for some reason those black gloves give him an air of like, because he's constantly pulling them up like people that were going to be coming in to choke you. They get those gloves adjusted. I think that they have plenty of time between now and when they do decide to pull the switch and bring Roman back, but they've got to give him some like big time victories, not a lot of cheap finishes. They got to make him seem like a monster in the ring and like an absolute mob boss on the sidelines. And I think they have time to do it. And they just, it'll take time.
Yeah. But I think they're on a good course. I'd be curious to hear what people think in the chat room as far as that specifically. If we're on course, if Solo's on course to be at Roman's level with the way that they're telling the story, with the idea in mind, we're on a trajectory. I don't think they think that they've arrived at where they want to be yet. Okay, another follow-up or another angle on this show and big part of the show was Nia Jax being coronated as Queen of the Ring. I thought it was short and sweet, the opening ceremony. I mean, I don't think they belabored the point of her being queen, which was good. And then they just kind of moved on. I'm for her as a heel, playing up the queen gimmick more with her persona than I am with Gunther, but they didn't overdo it. And it was interesting that she calls out Bailey, but then Piper Niven and Chelsea Green come out, and Green says, "Hey, Niven's going to be champ by then, not Bailey. You should be worried about her." And they attack her. My only concern about this is you're trying to get heel heat on Nia Jax, and I got the annoying Chelsea Green and Piper Niven opposite of her, and so you're sort of splitting the heel heat. I think you can get away with that sometimes, and this might be just one of those times where it works fine. It's just pick the person who you dislike more. But I don't want them to take away from the heel heat Nia Jax has by putting her against somebody like Chelsea Green, who's even more annoying. I'm not. Do you think it's going to be heel by the time they do it? Is there any hint of one of them leaning more babyface than the other as they perhaps head towards crossing paths?
I don't think so. And you got to have somebody to root against. And Nia Jax, I think, is putting in some of the best work that I've seen in years. And I like the presentation, like you said, of the crown for Queen Nia Jax. I'm glad they've done away with the robe and the scepter and and the campiness and the silliness. It seems like more of an honor right now, and for them to win that title of King or Queen of the Ring. I'm glad in one way they're pushing Piper Niven. I think she is an overlooked wrestler that really could be like Nia, made out to be a giant heel. But I'll tell you, yeah, Bailey's got two big challengers coming up between Nia Jax and Piper Niven, and I think that I don't know if you're going to see a match between them anytime soon because that's the heel and heel dynamic. I just think that you might unfortunately give the wrong impression because people are going to sit on their hands unless they have a distinct favorite. To get that heat, you got to have someone to get heat against, and you got two people get the same heat. I think it does damage to both characters.
Oh, do you think Piper Niven is too damaged or too comedy, or do you think? I mean, I've enjoyed the pairing, but I don't know if the way that they've portrayed them makes me believe in Niven as a main event title threat. Now, it's not necessarily required for this to work. If it's sort of an intermediate feud before they get to Nia Jax and Bailey. But how do you think they've done with Niven at this point in matching up with Chelsea and how they portrayed that?
I think she's better than she was. I still have the unfortunate taste of into the roster. And I watched her on NXT UK, and she was like portrayed as this powerhouse. Then all of a sudden she was this comedy character. Then they kind of got her back to being Piper Niven, giving her name back. I like the pairing with Chelsea, but yeah, Chelsea, I think, is doing some of the best work that I've seen her do too. Her character is so over the top. She does it so well. But I think that there is too much of a comedy play between the two of them. And it does take away of some of that, that monster heel that I think Piper Niven could actually generate on her own.
Yeah. I mean, I think she has tremendous upside. She's talented, but she's also shown, and this can be dangerous if you aspire to be a main eventer, although she was damaged and pushed down from that trajectory pretty early on with the Dewdrop persona. But when you show a comedy touch, sometimes they lean in on that too much. And then people just look to you for comedy. That was a big thing with Kurt Angle 20 years ago. Kurt had great comedic timing, but are they doing too much comedy with him, and did it hold him back? And I know this is weird to say for people who really, really, really enjoyed Kurt Angle's WWE career, but I think Kurt Angle could have been a bigger star if he was less good at comedy. I think if he had downplayed the comedy, which filled TV time wonderfully, and we enjoyed it, but I think he could have been seen as a generational main event wrestler with more of an edge to him. But they saw that he had comedic timing, and they just leaned so hard in on that. They're starting to, and I mean, I don't want to, I'm not, Piper Niven and Kurt Angle are very different, but there's the similarity I'm seeing is that Niven has been surprisingly good at the comedy, playing off of Chelsea. And I hope, and they're kind of going through this with Chad Gable, where I hope they find a way where to pick their spots with that, but make sure that that they're conveying to fans that there's a violent edge to her. And they've been doing that the last couple of weeks. I mean, with the attacks and tonight. So maybe they have that in mind also. So, but I'm just throwing that out there. As much as I'm enjoying her interplay with Chelsea, you don't want to lean on it too much.
You know, I'll give you a good example of how you can take a comedic character and flip the switch. Look at the work that Chad Gable's doing right now. I mean, he was
Absolutely.
doing like a lot of the comedy things, and now, I mean, the guy is turned the table, and he has turned into just an incredible heel. I mean, the 180 I think is fantastic. The work that he's done.
Yeah, I was skeptical that Gable could get to the point that he's at right now. He did just come across as somebody who is always going to seem comedic. And I also thought he was leaning too much on the catchphrases. And he's moved away from that. And I think it's working. And I think Gable has a chance to move up higher on the card for a longer span of time than I would have predicted, even like just 6 weeks ago, based on his initial heel work versus what they're doing lately. So yeah, I'm feeling good about that. I think what do you think of Bailey and how they've been incorporating her into the storyline by kind of keeping her around? You know, like during the Queen of the Ring tournament, they were getting comments from her on it. Tonight she comes out, she gets attacked. We haven't really seen her show that kind of fiery response yet to what Nia Jax has done, but you want to pick your moment to do that and not peak too early.
Bailey's ever since WrestleMania, it seems like Bailey's cooled down, and she seems to be getting like whomped on by everybody. But there never seems to be any kind of, like you said, there's no fire about, you know, this lady laid me out, I want to go on and take care of business. She just seems to get beat up by a new person every single week. They're setting up great challengers for her, and Bailey can, you know, she can make magic out of this at some point. But I've really been surprised at how downplayed, even though she's still been involved in segments, that her championship run isn't really talked about as much as you would think it would be, that she won that title at WrestleMania, and it's become almost like a prop and an afterthought a lot of times.
Yeah. And I think, you know, focusing on Queen of the Ring for a little while they have, didn't really allow bandwidth for Bailey to do a lot yet. She didn't have a lot to talk about. She wasn't in the tournament. Now they beat her down. There was an angle. And so we'll see what happens next with her. But they've set up Nia Jax as a strong opponent. How about Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill tonight, and the way that they're carrying themselves, portraying themselves? I like that these two single stars who it'd feel wrong to not have them in a main event situation if they weren't a tag team, especially if Bailey is champion as a babyface, they'd feel lost in the mix. But I think they're bringing a different level of prestige and gravitas to the tag team titles. They seem like a genuine tag team and genuine friends. And I think you don't want to do the turn too quickly with one or the other. And so far, I like what they're doing. And I liked their persona. I like the way that they carried themselves tonight in the backstage segment. So how are you feeling about them, Jason?
I like the pairing. I like it a lot. And that's going to be a marquee match at some point. Cargill against Belair at some point. And we all know, I mean, diamonds are forever, but tag teams are not. And every tag team breaks up at some point. And I think if they could pull a slow burn on this, I think the biggest person that's going to benefit is going to be Jade, because she's starting to get her confidence in the ring. And I think it's because she's getting it off Bianca. I think Bianca's been carrying a lot of the load, but I think Jade has been slow. I think she's going to learn a lot from Bianca. And I think it's going to make her a top tier star. And I think when that massive. I think those two go head to head. I think it's a money match. But again, that's something they should put on the back burner, let it simmer. And I could see that coming up sometime, maybe in a year or so. But I like the run they have as tag team champs right now. I think they're adding credibility.
We talked about World Class Championship Wrestling. The friendship with Chris Adams and Kevin Von Erich that turned into one of the great World Class feuds comes to mind. You want to establish a friendship for a while before you have any kind of a breakup. I mean, there's so many examples over the years, but it means more when it's ripe. And right now, you want people to think they're inseparable, that they've forged a bond, there's mutual respect, so that there's more outrage when whoever they choose to go heel goes heel. And what do you think the odds are that one of them goes heel versus the other? And do you have strong reasons why one should be the heel and not the other?
Before I give my answer, I do want to say another one that was great in the past was Chris Adams and Gino Hernandez. That tag team breaking up and that feud that followed after, that was money. I think that Bianca is the one that I would turn heel. I always felt that I'm the EST always had more of a heel ring to it, as opposed to a babyface saying I'm the greatest, I'm the best. I get the ego part of it, but I just think that Bianca, I've seen her. I think we've seen her all work as a heel before, and she does great heel work. And I think it's something that is a slow burn up to it. I really think that as popular as she is, if it's done right, I think that she could have people turning on her in a heartbeat. And I think Jade could come out of this as like an extremely popular babyface.
Absolutely. And this is good because Jade is green, still in the ring. So protecting her in tag matches during the stretch of time for her development in the ring, getting reps is really important. And yeah, I just think this is a really smart pairing, and it's really smart pacing with her. AEW certainly could have done this too if she had stuck around and put her in a tag team, let her not have to carry a whole singles match for a while. Because what you don't want to do is invest this much hype in her and then not have her be ready when the time comes that she's asked to do more in the ring, because that can really lead to fans rejecting you. And so they have, I think, through savvy booking, avoided that being a problem. She can take on more and more as she gets better in these tag matches, but she isn't relied upon to have to carry the whole match. So this not only is a really good storyline and a good fit personality wise, it raises the stature of the women's tag titles. They can float between brands. So Jade and Bianca get double, you get double out of them in terms of being on both shows. But it also gives Jade a chance to progress in the ring without too much pressure all at once. I'll read a comment here from Ken Arnold.
And like you said, they look so good together. They look like tag team champions.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason. I didn't mean to step on you.
No, it's okay. I just was just agreeing on your comment about the fact that they are the first tag team in a long time that looks like a tag team and not just two women they didn't know what to do with on the roster. So they said, okay, you're a tag team now. You're going to carry the gold. These guys, they look like they belong together 100%.
Going back to your comment about EST, Ken Arnold jumped into the comment on that. He said, I said last week that Bianca needs to turn heel. The babyface EST is so stale. She also needs to give back a little more after having so many big wins. Becky did, and so did Bayley. I don't know about owing wins back at this stage. I don't know that it's owed, but it might be the right thing to do. And if it's the right thing to do, then go ahead and do it. But Jason, you had mentioned, the EST bit. It stunted her. I thought there was a lot that she was doing that felt like there's, 4 just strings you pulled, and then the catchphrase came out, and I don't think she was. You could tell in her mainstream interviews, there's a natural. Her guard is down, a natural regular person charisma. And I thought it was limiting to be such a character with certain catchphrases and movements and hair twirls. I always thought there was a lot more that she could do. I think playing off of Jade is the way to open that up and have her react in a more human-like way that taps into what I think is more valuable charisma that she has. That said, the EST gimmick was originally in NXT. a wrestler who was full of herself and overly boastful. And she didn't change anything when she was supposed to be a babyface. And the reason she did it initially was to get heel heat and be a turnoff and off-putting. And then they just didn't adjust it enough when she was a babyface. There's a huge part of the WWE audience who loves her, and I get that. But I think to get to that next level, you want her to tone down some of the stuff that was intentionally created to get heel heat in NXT and find a new lane. And playing off of Jade, this is not only good for Jade, it's good for Bianca wherever she goes, whether Bianca ends up going ultimately heel or not.
Yeah, that I want to see I want to see the old EST come back. I think they have toned it down a little bit because, like you said, pull the string, and it was like the same catchphrases every time. She has seemed to dial back talking about EST more than she used to, but it's still, I mean, if it's emblazoned all over her tights and, and it's in her hair, I mean, you're still reminded of thing.
Yep, agreed. Steven Ordinato says, when Charlotte returns, will she feud with Nia over the Queen moniker? Boy, they're set up for that. And I mean, I don't know the timetable on Charlotte, but it's ready-made. I mean, it almost seems too obvious in retrospect to have picked anyone else to win Queen of the Ring tournament. Obviously, Nia Jax, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but a lot of positive praise for Nia Jax doing well on this run, better than expected. Something else that Kevin and Charlie were talking about on Acknowledging WWE, our PWTorch daily cast that's dedicated to WWE, that Nia has outperformed expectations. I was more of a defender of her coming back. I had been not given a spoiler, but kind of given a tip that like she's going to get a push out of the, she's going to get a strong push, but it's to serve a larger purpose. I think they've now reached the point where they're not just using her to get somebody else over. They are invested in her as a performer, as a personality, as a in-ring wrestler who can deliver main event level matches at this point, and also a main event personality. I like her promos. I still hear her promos get criticized that it's bad acting. I think there's sort of this like Valley Girl twang to her and just brute force arrogance that I just think works. I'm very willing to be critical of a promo that I think is not good. And I know we get pushback on this, but I think Nia's been better than she gets credit for, even on the microphone. Tell me about what you think about what we've seen from her since she returned, and then elaborate more on if her destiny in terms of a really big match, whether it's SummerSlam, WrestleMania 41, or something in between, facing Charlotte.
Nia, when she came back, it seemed like she was getting a lot of heat, but it was like, go away, heat. We don't like you. We didn't want you to come back. I think she turned that around. She's getting genuine heat from the audience based on her performances in the ring and the people that she's going up against, which I think is, I mean, that's a lot of respect to her, because she came in knowing people were going to be they're going to be hating on her for the wrong reasons. And I think that she turned that around and made it a positive. I don't know how I feel about a queen on queen. Charlotte is one of those people. I don't know what else they can do with her as far as like, is she going to be a baby face? Is she going to be a heel? Is she going to fight the same opponents all the time? So at least I don't recall ever seeing a Nia Jax Charlotte Flair matchup. And so I guess the freshness of that would be pretty good. But I'm just afraid they're going to start going down that king and queen avenue of, oh, well, we're going to have a match to decide who the true queen is. And then it's all about like a crown that doesn't really mean anything outside of now getting a title shot at SummerSlam. But I think that I think the two of them would work well together. But I got to give all the props in the world tonight. I think she has come a long way from a couple of years ago. So I got converted as a fan.
Derek Hubbard says, I believe that Nia believes what she says. That makes her a believable character. Believability is more important than delivering cute and clever lines. Nia Jax is not going for witty comment that causes people to chuckle. There's some criticism of the Young Bucks and Okada maybe going that direction with certain things. You hear that, I mean, it's a temptation to just get a crowd to pop and laugh at what you say. But Nia is all for genuine heel heat. And I think she's motivated by the fact that a lot of people just don't want her around. As you said, Jason, that go away heat, that is part of it. Ken Arnold says in the comments here, I think Paula Beck and whoever is assigned to work with her creatively has helped her. I think, you know, I mean, I talked to people in WWE who were skeptical when she came in, kind of like with CM Punk, where, well, there's a history there. I don't know. We'll see. And as time has gone on, I haven't heard of incidents with her. I think there's a respect for her old school heel approach, which is just go hard after baby faces, but in a way, as Derek says, that she believes what she's saying. Rude Dog in the comment area says, I groaned when Ajax came back, but you proved me wrong. She is a legit heel.
Yeah. I agree with the comment. Whoever it was working with her has given her, I want to say maybe more confidence. And I think when she talks, and the part of the believability that was just brought up in one of the comments is she has almost like an audible sneer when she's saying something. Like she really has that genuine, I'm better than you. You're not even on my level. And I really think that's helped her character so well.
Absolutely. Yeah. It gets down to the believability factor with her. I want to remind everybody, you can always email us, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com, if that works better than the chat room, or if you're not going to join us live on YouTube, but you want to be part of the show, that is the email to accomplish that. Also, we have a VIP membership where you can hear all of our podcasts with the ads and plugs removed. And also a bunch of VIP exclusive podcasts. We've got a graphic on the screen right now for those watching on YouTube, pwtorch.com/govip. 35 years of archives. We started Pro Wrestling Torch. I started Pro Wrestling Torch as a teenager in high school, and I was covering world-class championship wrestling. Not their peak, but still covering them. We basically covered every territory going out of business in those early years in the late 1980s, including my AWA, my beloved hometown group that kind of faded out. But you can dive into the back issues, an unmatched library of wrestling history, contemporaneous coverage, really cool long-form interviews, including young Paul Heyman, multiple interviews with him, Torch Talk interviews that I conducted with him in the late 80s and early 90s especially, but even in the ECW years. Young Mick Foley interviews, long-form interviews, some of Pro Wrestling's biggest names in the archives. I could go on and on. So many reasons to go VIP. Check out full details at pwtorch.com/govip. When you sign up, you have access. If you pay through Patreon, you can sync us up on Spotify. If you sign up through your Apple Podcast app, then you can pay with your Apple account. Otherwise, we are compatible with the Apple Podcast app if you just sign up the regular way with PayPal, credit card, or debit card. This is all laid out in our sign-up form, pwtorch.com/govip. Gives you full details on all the benefits and all the different price tiers and what will work best for how you consume podcasts. All right, cool. Let's go bring in a special guest here to do a little bit of roundtable discussion, and that is Kevin Duncan, who was co-host last week, and he is back with us this week. And Kevin, I could tell you've been monitoring the show, and so I'm interested in what you have to say about the discussion that we've had so far.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I agree with everything you guys are saying about Nia Jax, and this is coming from someone who has made a lot of jokes with the pun of Nia jacking up segments. She's grown on me. She really, I mean, she has just, I think you guys said it best. She has fully embraced how to be disliked in every way. And I think she should get her flowers for it. But speaking of, you guys were talking about tag teams for a bit. We had a little bit of a tease with A-Town Down Under. Are they really going to sow dissension this early?
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm very interested in this storyline. I thought when they teamed them up, it felt redundant. You know, it's like two similar personalities. They're not complementary. Is it?
But they click. They're clicking.
They have.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have Grayson Waller saying, Johnny Gargano, you made Austin Theory irrelevant. I like that they're tying in their history in NXT. And then Austin Theory's like, wait, I heard that. What are you talking about? Why do you have to say that? And then that led to the finish. I'm not convinced that means Austin Theory is going to be the babyface, but certainly that's the initial salvo of tension between them is intriguing. And so I'm kind of, I would have, and I'm curious, Jason, I'll go to you second. I want to get, because Kevin brought this up, I want to get his thought first, and then Jason, just jump right in. Who did you think when these two teamed up, if they broke up, would be the heel and the face when they split? And who do you want to be? Is it the same or different? Because it looks like they might be headed towards Theory as a babyface. So Kevin, who did you think they were going to turn? Has that changed over time? And who do you think would be the better babyface out of those two when they break up?
I thought the opposite of where it seems to be poised. I thought Theory, with his arrogance and just being as good looking of a human being as he is, he would just be the natural heel fit. I thought Waller is, he's funny. He's got charisma. He could probably win people over with that. And yet tonight, it seemed like the exact opposite. He was over there making comments about making Theory relevant again with the Grayson Waller rub, which sounds like a very questionable legal expense to be zeitgeisty right now. But I still would like to see personally Waller as the face and Theory as the heel, but it doesn't seem like they're going that way.
Yeah, Jason.
It's kind of hard to imagine which one you'd want to be the face because they're both such good D-bags. They just play those roles so well. But I remember the silly Austin Theory, even though I don't want to see him go back to doing that. When he was a babyface with The Way, the guy had a good range in the way that he could act. He could be this goofy guy. But I think Waller wins with me. Waller, I think, just exudes just so much arrogance and overconfidence. I think if you had to split these guys up, Waller's got to stay the heel because I just can't imagine the sickness I would feel if I had to root for this guy as a babyface. I would have to be just a heel lover for the rest of my life.
I think that's a really valid point. And also because, with his energy, he definitely has the ability to ramp that up even more and be more annoying. So I think that's a very valid point.
I will jump in and say I'm kind of split. And Derek Hubbard, I'll read his comment here. I would choose Austin as the babyface. His in-ring works as a heel and or a babyface. I think Austin, the key is Austin's the better worker with more upside and he's younger. So the question is, do you think you can get him over as a emerging babyface with fans giving him a fresh look and cheering for him as he moves past Waller to the next level? If Grayson Waller starts acting arrogant and gets fans to think sympathetically about him. Theory in the ring, I think athletically, and as Derek says, he can work as a heel or a babyface. Some wrestlers are better like Seth Rollins is better as a babyface in the ring. Sasha Banks is better as a babyface in the ring. Mercedes Moné doesn't always match up with their personalities. So the key with Austin Theory is, can his personality be tweaked in a way where he's likable and not the young brash punk? And how do you take that charisma and that sort of rhythm to his character and have Theory get cheered by the WWE audience and avoid him and again, this so much has to do with his opponents and the story they tell, but not come across as sort of this good looking, everything handed to him, this athletic guy with great genetics who's now excelling, and then have the fans turn and go against the storyline. And that's where Waller can work in that way. Ken Arnold says Austin Theory can be a good babyface, even if he shows some D-bag tendencies every once in a while. But Azan does have concerns. Would Austin get over as a face long-term? And it's definitely, my concern.
You know what
So
I think would do it though? I think it's the writing. It's the one-liners. You were talking earlier about the Young Bucks and Ospreay having kind of those chuckle moments. If somebody was working with Theory, because he delivers lines very well, whether they're organic or scripted. He believes everything he says. If somebody works with him to really get that material that starts to make you go, huh, oh, that was actually kind of funny, I think you could organically slowly turn him.
Jason. Jason?
I can chime in.
Oh, yeah. I threw to you. You didn't hear. Go ahead.
Okay. I just, let's face it. If it comes down to Theory and Waller, Theory's automatically the babyface. He's going to win that. He's going to win that contest every day of the week. I would be more concerned about the next one after that, whether or not he'd be able to carry that. But I agree about, I think if you give this guy the right writing, he can still be smug and he can still be arrogant. I mean, LA Knight is an example of somebody who's smug and arrogant, and yet people love him. A few tweaks to Austin's character. Yeah, I think that they could probably find that diamond inside.
Yeah, even The Rock was smug, but it worked.
Yeah,
and eventually it just got over.
Yeah, I know there's key people in WWE who are very high on Austin Theory, and Paul Levesque's one of them. They see him as not an immediate project. This Waller thing is a way to not shoving down people's throats as an overpush him, but they see him as a guy with there's people who just have the wrong attitude. I mean, and it's important. AEW has ended up with a lot of people who had a wrong attitude, and people were wondering why doesn't Vince McMahon push them more? And you hear behind the scenes, either during or after the fact, oh yeah, that guy's a flake, or she's trouble, or he is unprofessional and uncooperative and has the wrong attitude. You heard that about Jack Swagger back in the day, that he had a lot going for him, but he didn't have that he had the pedigree, but he didn't have the main event attitude that former main eventers like Paul Levesque recognize that you need. Theory had immaturity early on, but impressed people who are very willing to go, you have the wrong attitude and we're not going to gift you anything. And instead, he asked the right questions. He had aspirations to be great, I was told. And people like Levesque, who have reached the pinnacle, look for people who are hungry and are invested and ask the right questions and respect the process and history. And I don't want to pick on Jake Hager, Jack Swagger, but he did not check any of those boxes. Austin Theory, kind of like Swagger at the beginning, if we compare him, you look and you go, oh, this person could be a main eventer. But with Theory, it was gonna take some time.
You know who's a good example of that was Seth Rollins.
Yeah,
he had a lot of, or at least there were stories of him, kind of being a little too arrogant and a little too immature, and then
wanting to get his spots in and insisting on that, despite what veterans told him.
Yeah, and then it seemed like he started to listen and shot to the moon.
Yes. So I just think this is the next stage in the evolution of Theory. I want to switch to Grayson Waller, because we've had the graphic up on the screen here from Derek saying if Waller sheds his pompous front, I don't know what he has left. He would be a more obnoxious Miz. So we talk a lot about Theory, but where, Jason, does Waller go in this? If Waller turns heel on Theory, I assume, I think quite safely, he will be doing a job for Theory. Theory will step over him to get to the next level. Grayson Waller, I think, is going to be the Miz comparison. I don't know that Waller's going to be a main event world title contender. He's not bad in the ring, but he's not a future top tier star. They don't look at him that way. I don't think they should. There's no shame in it. It's not a criticism. It's just not the mold that he's coming from. So
he's probably more of an R-Truth, but in a different kind of comedic way.
I know what you mean by that. Yeah. So Jason, talk about Grayson Waller and where you think he's heading if he is the heel in the Theory feud, and he's used to help elevate Theory. But then I assume at that point, he just goes back to doing his talk show and working against mid-card baby faces.
Waller's a good talker. I don't know. I mean, he's good. He's good in the ring for the experience level that he has. I don't know. I just can't see this guy as, like, I can't see him being a U.S. champion. I can't see him having the Intercontinental champion. I think maybe he found a good place being in a tag team. And if they don't think he gels very well with Theory as far as their personalities, even though they're both who they are, some guys, they put them together and you're like, man, that clicked. This still hasn't clicked for me. And that's why I was really surprised that they put the belts on him when they did. He, as pulling off what I call the Miz. I mean, the guy that comes in, everybody's like, oh, this guy's not going to make it. He's not going to last. And then he's still around. I don't know if I see having that same ability to do what the Miz did.
Rude Dog says, and I'll throw to you, Kevin. I find Grayson Waller way more interesting than Austin Theory. I think it could be definitely be a better version of the Miz. I do think, I mean, Austin Theory showed good comedic timing opposite of Gargano in the way in NXT. But for him to be a top guy, he needs to move away from that. So I think when they do go their separate ways, Grayson Waller is going to go stay in the niche that he's in, which is a vocal agitator, a conduit to get other people over by being annoying as a talk show host and having occasional matches. He might team up with somebody else eventually. Theory does not need to be as interesting as Grayson Waller. He needs to be present himself in a main event or future main eventer framework. And that's going to be a work in progress. I don't think we know Theory's landing place as a babyface. So I'm really intrigued with this. I love wrestlers on journeys. Bret Hart, I started watching him in the WWF 80s house shows. Jason, back in the day, you probably did too, fighting the British Bulldogs and the Dream Team, Greg Valentine, Brutus Beefcake. And I love seeing Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart as the Hart Foundation for years, and then Bret break off, become a singles wrestler. He was seen as bland. What's his personality going to be as a singles wrestler? Neidhart was a personality. Bret was the excellence of execution. He became Intercontinental Champion, and then the Hogan steroid scandal broke, and Vince was looking for somebody who was safe, that the fans had a bond with. Let's go with Bret. Fans embraced him. We can discuss another day Bret's personality and how much it worked for him to help him reach peak main event level. There's a reason he's not talked about as a Mount Rushmore guy, but he was really a valuable transition piece for WWE out of the Hulk Hogan era and the steroid era. And that journey is what people, for me as a fan watching and covering his career, I love the journey and seeing people grow and find what the best lane is for them. So with Austin Theory, that's what's going to be fun to watch. I think we know Grayson Waller's lane. He's in it. This is going to be what he is till the end of his career. Eventually, he'll probably be a babyface because fans will just enjoy him throwing salvos at heels who have it coming. But it shouldn't be anytime soon. And I'm if they've got something in mind for Theory to grow into a higher end wrestler, it's not going to be because he's doing comedic stuff. It's going to be something else that maybe doesn't fit interesting in the way that Rude Dog rightfully points out Grayson is more interesting, but it'll be something different. Kevin, over to you.
Yeah, no, I totally hear that. And I think, if they're going to split them and they have, a plan to start pushing Theory, I totally get it. For me personally, though, I think they do click. I mean, to me, they click more than a keyboard in a courtroom. I just think their bromance is just it's kind of the bromance equivalent of like a Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, or, to be more modern, like a Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. I just think they.
Are you suggesting a romantic comedy produced by WWE Films?
A bromantic comedy.
Okay, yeah.
I think they riff off each other. I think they play off each other really well. And me personally, I wasn't huge on either one of them, but they entertain me and they make me laugh. And, I get it if they're gonna start to give Theory that rocket push. Totally get it. But if not, I'd like to see it go a little longer. I think they're funny. I think when they have their kind of exploits outside of the arena every once in a while, I enjoy it personally.
Yeah. All right. I'm just looking at YouTube comments here. We have joining us, VIP member and regular caller from the audio only call-in days, Sean. Let's bring him in. Sean, where might you be from?
I'm from a amazing city called Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
I think this is pretty cool. Look at us. You know what? I don't think I knew what you look like. And you look exactly like I expect you to look. Well, I don't know if I had an exact picture, but I'm not at all surprised. It's great to meet you face to face virtually here on the internet, on YouTube. Welcome to the show. We're going to turn into the Brady Bunch here in a little bit. If we get 2 more callers, we can look up and down, left and right at each other.
We're going to have a battle royale of talking.
Right. Exactly.
It's a progressive battle royal here, a gauntlet. So Sean, contribute your thoughts.
Well, first, I do enjoy this YouTube thing that you're doing, Wade. I know it's long overdue. I know you talked about it. It's long overdue. I've been a member for a long time. I've loved every bit of it. Just glad to be on here and be able to, again, share my thoughts. Kevin, it's good to talk to you, man. I'm enjoying your show with Charlie. I'm enjoying it a lot. Thank you for what you bring to the show. It's been really fun. The last time you brought it, man, I really enjoyed it. And Jason, it's good talking to you again, man. So I'm with you guys just talking about Theory and Waller. I'm with you, Kevin. I was kind of like, man, this is too quick to be breaking them up. Like, I think they've really started to gel with each other, and they definitely have a chemistry together. And it was really fun to see kind of where that was going to go. And then now they're like, oh, they're going to, starting to go away. And it's like, I don't know, because I've been with Wade. I think Theory has, a way bigger upside. I think there's main event potential. He's really good in the ring.
Oh, yeah.
He's really fun. To me, when he going into the Cena match at WrestleMania, like, I thought there was something there, because I was like, okay, Cena can really play off him in a fun way, because I was like, okay, they're going to bring Cena back. Cena sees where WWE is going. It's on a more serious track, and then he just started doing the dumb. It just was a bad promo going into the match. The match was bad, and then it just kind of was like, no, Theory's not this. I don't really like Theory, and it's like there's something there with him, and I think I wanted to see where they could go with him as a face, because obviously I think that's the direction they're going in. But to me, it's too fast. I just want them to kind of develop and keep the chemistry going for a while, and so I haven't really liked that. What do you guys think about that? Are you kind of all in the same? Because I didn't get to hear anything beforehand, so you guys kind of with me, or where do you feel they're going? Is Theory the face in this ultimate scenario?
So with all of our discussion so far, without repeating ourselves, I think the timing of this is worth revisiting now that we've talked more about this. Does this feel too soon? Jason, I'll throw to you first. Too soon or just about right? And you're coming from a place of thinking they haven't clicked as much. So maybe you're thinking, let's do this now and not have them together. We'll see if Kevin thinks the same or different, because he thinks they have clicked. Jason.
It is too soon, especially since they just got the tag titles recently, and I would have thought that they would have given them at least a better run together as a team, even before they won the championships. I agree. Sometimes their stuff makes me laugh, because they are able to play off each other very well. And I think that if they are going to split these guys up, it's got to be a slow burn. It can't be 2 weeks from now. I think it seriously has to be just a series of unfortunate events that happen week after week after week, because I think that the slower the candle burns, the better that breakup is going to be when it happens. And then if you change your mind and you say, well, you know what, I guess this isn't going to work, we'll just keep them together, and then they'll hug and have a bromance and hug and kiss, and then they'll be happy and they can continue to work as a team. But as long as they don't pull that trigger too fast, I think that they can stay together a little bit longer.
Kevin, chime in.
I agree. I agree that it's too soon, especially because the main event scene is just so top heavy right now. And unless they have a plan, and I still don't think this is probably the right booking, to make him like Cody's opponent at SummerSlam, I think it's too soon. I think the more likely scenario there is probably Randy, and they're going to play the legacy card. But unless they're going to throw him into the main event scene, I think it's way too soon.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Yeah, Sean, back to you. Continue. As I say, you can follow up on that or change subjects and bring something else up.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious, how fast they go. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I mean, for sure. Well, going back to the tag team stuff, I wanted to kind of bring it up. I don't know if you guys have talked about them at all, or the Street Profits. I've always been kind of torn on where they were going to go, if they were going to break them up and just do a slow thing with that and make, Montez a really, because I think Montez still can be a really good babyface, but they've really hurt them in a lot of ways. They're just losing way too much. I know, the bloodline, they're going to, and I didn't want a wonky finish, but at the same time, it's like I want to protect them a little bit because I still think there's potential with both of them in certain ways. And so I don't know. I've just been not liking what they've been doing, the track that they're on. I don't even know I can't even tell where they're going with them. I just feel like they're not getting buried, but I feel like they are. They're losing it a little too much. What do you guys think on that? Am I way off base? What do you think?
So I'll throw to Kevin first, and then Jason, when Kevin's done, you can just jump right in without me throwing to you. I do think I'll, as a preamble to this, just think they had something in mind for the Profits, and the fans didn't buy in. And so now they're just sort of back where they were. And yeah, I don't know. I wish I wish that they were in a better place than they have found themselves. But Kevin, I'm curious for your take. And then, like I said, Jason, jump in after that.
I completely agree. I think, I think that was a colossal misfire trying to have them go heel, just because the style that they have in the ring, it's just not a heel style. And right now, yeah, they're just kind of playing this kind of like greatest hits mascot kind of role. And yeah, they kind of dipped into the bloodline thing, which, by the way, I refuse to call them the bloodline. To me, they're the Tonga line, like conga line, but that's neither here nor there. That's just my adult ADD. But yeah, I agree. I think, I think they don't really know what to do with them, because I think their long-term plans, I think they called an audible there. And I think they're kind of just like, oh God, let's just weave them in and out and kind of play this by ear every week until we figure out what we're doing with them.
When they teamed them up with Bobby Lashley, and it was almost like a new version of the Hurt Business. I thought this is what the Street Profits need. They need some sort of a reboot, because I felt that they had gotten stagnant. It was the same thing. It was the Red Solo Cups. But they're a hard team, like you were mentioning, to turn heel, because they have too many like moves that generate excitement from fans.
Mm-hmm.
You would almost have to change their wrestling style a little bit, tone down the over the ring post flips, the Dawkins pounce that he would do. I think he would almost have to make him more of a mat-based power duo. And it's almost like right now they need to go away for a little bit and try to figure out what they're going to do with them. I just think their talent is unbridled.
Do they?
As I think they are so good together.
If Bianca Belair eventually turns heel on Jade, if they go that direction, can they wait until then to give another attempt to getting the Street Profits as heels by having them form a faction? Is that something you'd like to see, Jason? And do you think it has more potential than whatever they tried to do with Bobby Lashley?
What scares me about, I love the idea. I would love to see the husband and wife turn heel. You got Dawkins along for the ride, the plug on Bianca and make her a heel. I'm just terrified of the damage that's going to be done to the Street Profits, where they're not going to be thought of as credible. I look at, and I use this as an example all the time, look at how many times that started and buried with Karrion Kross. And now every time he comes back, I can't take the guy seriously, because I'm like, this is going to be another start-stop organization that he's going to have. And I just think if they just lose way too much, And I think that their name is going to be damaged and their credibility is going to be shot.
I think you touched on something really interesting though. The dynamic of a heel power duo, like that just reminds me of the McMahon Helmsley era. I mean, you could have the Ford Bell era or something like that. Like that could be interesting.
By the way, it's, Sean, do you see a frozen screen of Mr. Kevin Duncan, or is he moving? Oh, I got you muted, Sean. Sorry. Go ahead, Sean. Is he frozen like he is for me?
Yeah, he is. Same here.
You've been frozen, Kevin, for like 3 minutes. I don't know if you noticed that.
I'm just very stoic. I will fix that.
I have not sat that still ever. So that would just be.
I'm very engrossed.
Oh, new camera. Look at this. We're seeing you from the other angle now with your championship.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, now you're back on. Cool.
Okay, I'm good. I'm here.
Hey, look at that.
You know what it is? My computer went to sleep and I didn't realize it.
Oh, cool. Well,
yeah,
it's nice.
Well, here's my computer.
Sean, back to you.
Yeah, and going back to Jade, which you just talked about, I think it's really interesting. I mean, obviously they were, talking with, Indy and had the tag team match. I'm really intrigued with this Jade Indy match next week. I think if we're going to see flaws in her game, I think it could be next week, because that's going to be an interesting matchup with Indy, who, I like Indy as, she's a fun character, but in the ring, she's not the greatest. She's a work in progress. And so I'm interested to see what they can do in the ring. I hope they, I don't want them to go like, 10 minutes, obviously, but, in the 3-4 minutes, whatever they're going to get, I hope, we continue to see the progress that Jade is making. And because I think she even sells, better than I was expecting in some of the matches she's had so far. So was that surprising to you, even though they've been talking backstage and everything? Were you surprised they're actually going to a match just between the two of them?
Kevin.
I'm kind of on the fence, in all honesty.
On the fence? Come on. You got to go one way or the other. Come on. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that, in all honesty. I think it's
just
really
hit me seeing it. Point. It just hit me seeing it on the, when they put it on screen. I was like, oh, wow. Like, I know they've been talking. They've had the tag team match and,
yeah.
But it was just weird. I'm like, wow, Jade Indy 1-on-1. That's, okay.
Yeah, is that I think you could take that one in two ways. Is that a bit of a practice run for Jade, or is it more faith in Indy? And I'm curious to see how it benefits either of them or both of them.
What do you think, Jason? Jason, what do you think about that? Doing Indy Hartwell 1-on-1 with Jade so soon, or I don't even so soon is loading the question. What do you think of the timing of it?
Oh, sorry. I was engrossed in the conversation. I was listening to you guys too much, and I was like, "Oh my god, I have to be part of this group."
I thought your screen froze.
You were
I think
sitting more still than me.
The Jade Indy match. Oh no, I look stoic too. I think Indy's going to get fed to Jade. I see that match as being a power move pin. And I think that's right now, that's something Jade's comfortable with. She's not going to be asked to do too much. Like Sean was saying, Indy's okay. She's not somebody that I would trust. She just doesn't have the polish or the seasoning. But then again, I think this is what Indy's role is. I think she is one of these girls that's going to get in there. She's going to take her lumps, and she's going to be made to look have somebody else look good at her expense. And hey, that's part of the business.
Sean, what else have you got for us?
So I wanted to go and I know you already obviously talked about it. And I haven't heard, of course, that's why I'm saying it, but I know I might be in the minority. I did not like the end tonight. I did not like it. They've done this before. Yeah, Was
it that he didn't have a salmon jacket?
Right. They got me in the sense of, I mean, they didn't get me. I knew that was very possible. And the more it kept leaning on and the more they kept waiting and the more Cody kept celebrating them, the more I'm like, okay, guys, we're really going to go to this. And my thing is, I've said this many times. I love AJ Styles. I think he's had an amazing career. I really, really do. And I think he's an ultimately good person. We don't need this. We don't need a swerve like that. We just don't need swerves. We just don't need it. We've had it a lot, and it just,
they got enough of those in AEW.
And that's what I'm saying. My friend texted me, or he said there was a bomb that happened like while I was watching the show, and I was like, okay, this is intriguing. Like, what's going on? And then it happened, and I was like, okay, that's a bomb in a bad way. That's a bad bomb. That's a bomb that I don't want WWE to get in the habit of, because I'm really enjoying what WWE's been doing. I've been loving the shows, and as good as the show was in a lot of ways. And I wanted to say the other thing here in a minute, but that just ending just really hurt it for me. It's going to be a good match, but we know it's happening, and the way they got there, just don't like it. Go ahead. You can add on to anything if you want to, but I know you probably already talked about it a little bit. So
yeah, we did. But I talked about it with Jason. We gave our opinions. Kevin, way too predictable and cliche, or did they pull it off? I can make an argument, if you're ever going to do it with AJ in this circumstance with Cody, because Cody wants to believe the best in everybody, and AJ has had this rich career. But the question is, have they done it too much? You can even blame AEW a bit for it to be even on the table anymore.
I think AJ pulled it off. I think WWE blew it a little bit. I think they telegraphed it way too much. I think commentary was like, oh, is this it? Oh my God, this could be the last time we see AJ. Like, I just think they played it way too obvious. But if you remove that, I thought AJ did a good job with it. Is it a predictable thing? Of course. But I thought he did a good job with it. I didn't even realize Gallows and Anderson were still there, so that was a nice touch. But I thought WWE showed their hands too much. They just kept kind of like elbowing us, being like, "Oh my God, can you believe it? What do you? He's leaving. Like, this could be it. Like, it was just
rumors.
Yeah, rumors that broke on WWE.com from sources unknown."
I don't think we should say you can't do things that are predictable. And because everything's been done, but this goes to my argument about, not doing brave finishes. You got to save your cop-outs, your shenanigans for when you really, really need them. Otherwise, just do clean jobs. People will recover. There's all heck, it's my bitchometer, like the insulting people with that word, and having it happen as frequently on wrestling shows as it does, it loses its power, and it got reset on Wednesday, and then like 5 minutes later, it got reset again to 0. I'm hoping to get 6 weeks of time of that timer before it gets reset by anyone. There's all kinds of things that should not happen very often, and it's a shame, because if we didn't have the insincere, we see it coming a mile away type segment, then this would be perfect for AJ Styles to do it at this time. And even if people predict it, if it's done well enough, because the circumstances are such, you can actually get away with pulling some people in before the rug is pulled out from under them. And I think AJ did a good job. I thought Cody overdid it. The choking up, the welling up. I'm not saying I don't want to say it if I'm saying I'm not going to say it, but I hope I won't use a cliche, but I hope this isn't a moment that gets cited as a turning point for a lot of Cody's shtick, and why people like him, because I really think Cody needed to show a little skepticism and hesitation to be taken seriously as an adult human being who's been around this business for a long time. And he is all of those things. And I just want to be more skeptical. It's impossible, even if you're buying into it and thinking maybe this will be the exception, to not watch this going, Cody, be careful. just in case, be careful. This is AJ Styles. It's, he's
you're watching a
turned up
horror
with Kevin
movie and
Owens.
someone's about to go check on a weird noise, and you're like, "Don't go in there."
Yeah. So just the welling up, the choking up. I mean, at least he didn't mention Dusty in this promo, but I think we need to move away from Cody tearing up. I mean, he's pushing Tommy Dreamer levels now in terms of that kind of thing. So I don't know. I mean, Sean, that's my take. Like I said, Jason and I talked about it earlier. I wasn't quite as harsh on Cody at the top of the show as I am now. But those feelings were there. Jason, do you want to add anything else hearing our discussion here on this?
Yeah, actually, I just want to know what everybody would think if they made this tweak. This is what I was thinking when I was watching the segment. You have AJ come out and do everything he did with Gallows and Anderson, and they have the group hug, and he waves his hands to the fans, and as he's walking up the ramp, he turns and gives another bow. And the last shot on SmackDown is him with his bag leaving, then running into Cody Rhodes. And Cody saying, "Hey, you know what? It's been a pleasure. I had a great match with you. Good luck." Goes off stage. And then you got AJ coming in and laying him out then. Instead of bringing him out into the ring and playing to the crowd, I think I wondered, how do you guys feel if they've just made that little tweak where he had played it out so he went right backstage? And everybody's thinking, "Oh, that really was it." It just seemed like the air let out of the balloon the moment he said, "Cody, would you come down to the ring?" I mean, that's like sticking your head in the lion's mouth, I thought.
I'll throw a tweak in, and then I'll get Sean and Kevin to respond, because as Jason was talking, I wasn't thinking Jason was going this way, but this other tweak on the tweak crossed my mind, which is have Cody stay backstage and and it can be other wrestlers too, just wishing AJ luck, but the camera stays on AJ, and again, you would have to figure this out because I haven't thought this through, obviously, but instead of following AJ, let's say, or I'm sorry, sticking with Cody again, I'm trying to map this out in my head, storyboard in my head, but basically the punchline would be Anderson or Gallows blows it, because they say to Styles, not realizing they're still on camera, "You fooled everyone." And AJ goes, "Oh crap." And then that's how the show ends. And so everybody spends all week wondering, did AJ, and again, I'm like, really, I don't like drawing a whole specific scenario out too much. But for this illustrative point, I'll say you could have left people wondering, did Anderson and Gallows assume AJ wasn't sincere and he was? And AJ's response could be ambiguous, or did he just spoil something that was meant to be a plot that would play out later? So again, if we're coming up, and Jason, you're coming up with a way to have the scene be different, have the setting be different, and not spoil up having calling Cody to the ring, where then you're like, wait a second, now we see what's happening. Maybe you put an extra twist on it where it's actually a cliffhanger that lasts a whole week because of somebody blurting something out when they thought the show was off the air, and AJ's response either is, Carl, we're still on the air. What'd you just do? Or like looking kind of puzzled, like, what do you mean by that? And so it's sort of like the Heyman thing. Is he with Solo or not? We could have this whole mystery. Is he with him or not? And then that would be a fun thing for social media all week. And AJ could go on social media and go and make his case. Hey, they didn't trust that I was really retiring. They assumed, of course, it's safe for them to think that. And everyone's wondering, well, is that a ruse or not? So I think they could have stretched it out a week, not just to the backstage, like Jason said. So Kevin, I'll throw to you, and then Sean, your thoughts on Jason's scenario, and then also me adding layers to it.
I'm going to make this even more confusing. I would add a twist upon the twist upon the twist.
Fun.
So what I would have done, I wouldn't have played the retirement angle. I think it's to Mark Henry. It's been done. I would have played the injury angle and made it a serious injury, and really, like, I hurt my neck. They're telling me if I continue, play the edge card. That whole, like, they say if I wrestle, I could risk, but like really lay it on thick and then turn and be like, I got all of you, kind of a thing. Because I just feel like the retirement thing, it's such a predictable card to play, which sometimes that's a good thing. It's played a lot for a reason. It works. But I don't think anybody's really done that and really just kind of blatantly lied about an injury just to lure someone out.
Yeah. All right, 3 scenarios. Sean, what do you think?
What's your twist?
Or who gets your vote, or do we all get we all want your vote?
All of you get my vote. Come on now. That's easy. No, I think, well, it's funny because initially when this was going on, when AJ initially went up to Anderson and Gallows, and I was like, you guys have been at each other's, or well, you've been at their throats. I mean, they've been trying to come to you and all this stuff, and you just like been shoving them away for months. And I felt like he never really even apologized to them for all the stuff that had gone on. You think if you're having a best friend relationship, you're like, hey, I'm sorry, I've been acting
There's
like
that loose end. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they didn't do that. And I was like, okay, that was just weird when they were talking. I was like, okay, aren't you going to talk about all the stuff that's happened the last like 6 months or whatever? I don't know. And so that happened. And then, yeah, I didn't even think of it. Jason, you made a good point. I didn't even think about the coming to the ring. Yeah, because that did just spoil it. It was like, okay, and then the other thing too was I'm with you guys. I love the Cody being genuine part. Like I think he is very genuine, but then it is like, okay, we don't need the waterworks every time something like this happens. Like we don't, right. I think there was a thought of, I think Cody was being quiet at points to think, okay, well, let's see how this plays out. Maybe there is something there, even though AJ, you know, they both have genuine vibes together. So I think he was just thinking in his mind, you know, it's fine. I truly trust them. Nothing like this is going to happen. And then it did. That's what made me more frustrated was the AJ Anderson Gallows stuff where they're not talking about any of that. Like, why are we not bringing any of this up? Like this, you guys never were at each other's throats. Like, come on, this is kind of, so that took me out of it initially. But then I was like, okay, if AJ's retiring, what a career. I had that thought initially. And then I was like, no, this is a play. Like they're not going to go through with this. He's going to turn on them. And then here we go. So that was my thought going in.
You know what I think would have helped with the Cody thing, and this kind of goes to Wade's point a little bit earlier too, about him being smarter. If they had just cut to a close-up of him once or twice, just giving a little bit of a squint, like I'm not sure, just a very subtle thing, that would have fixed that part for me.
Yeah.
I think people want smart baby faces. It doesn't mean cynical, but on guard for something, knowing who he is. What about the loose end, Jason, with the dissension or the blowing off of Anderson and Gallows, and suddenly we're brothers and, you know, we're more than partners. And I mean, did they ever pay that off or explain it? And it would be nice if that had been brought up by somebody. I mean, I don't like, you know, dangling storylines that are not, followed up on. Jason.
Yeah, it was like they I don't know what goes on in their heads, but I would think that maybe that was part of the sincerity of the retirement speech. Hey, you know what? The unofficial words, I've been, you know, I was married for years, and I know there was many times when I had to apologize, and my way of apologizing after was just being, well, I'll just pretend it didn't happen. And it's almost like that. He's got to deliver this heartwarming message. He's going to be walking away. You know maybe I treated you guys poorly, but we've been brothers for so long. Unspoken apology. So I mean, maybe that's where they're trying to go with it. But it was awkward, and I think maybe it would have been less awkward if he just greeted them in the, you know, right about the gorilla position and said, you know, I haven't needed you. I love you guys. And go out and do your thing. But it was kind of like a loose end that I think they could have addressed, even if it was just a Band-Aid on it. I think they could have made it so you'd be like, well, okay, it's a little lame, but it's better than just saying, oh yeah, don't even remember what we talked about for the last couple of weeks.
We don't ask for much as wrestling fans, but something, just something like you just suggested, Jason, that would be like, hey, I know I've been a jerk lately. And AJ could have said part of the reason I've been acting towards you guys the way I have is because I've been insecure about whether this is something that I can do at the level I'm used to doing it. Or I've been nervous about, whatever. I mean, that could be part of the ruse. Where we look
it
back
could
and
have been a
think that's
look on his
insecure.
face, even like AJ's good at emoting.
Yes.
It could have been that kind of nervous, insecure, like, hey guys, like,
Yeah.
I know it's been weird, but happy you're here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you're here for this. I know I wouldn't blame you if you weren't here for me. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even a look can say that. Yeah. Sean, back to you. Anything else you want to bring up before we let you go?
Yeah, I guess the last topic I was going to ask you guys about was going early in the show with kind of wanted to hear your thoughts, if you haven't a lot already, talking about kind of what you've thought of Bayley, as a face again. I was all for it. I'm still for it. I still like it because I've always loved Bayley. I know Kevin and Jason, I've talked about it with Wade many times, and I just want to bring it up because it bugs me how her face character was so ruined the first time. I know it's a long time ago, but there was something there and they had it, whatever. But I'm still into what she's doing. I don't love what she's done so far as champion, but I'm willing to let it play out. It's still early. And what you think about, I would love to see Piper. I feel like they're starting to give her a push again to some degree. Don't know where it's going to go, but I'm still intrigued because Piper just has so much potential. Like, she's so good in the ring. She's for her size, she's so charismatic. I just like a lot about her, and I just wish they would push her to the moon even. I mean, I really like what she's capable of, and so I wanted to hear your kind of thoughts on the dynamic. And Wade, I know I brought it up to you, and I'm if we do a flagship, hopefully one of these days on YouTube, we can do a flagship when you and Jason are on there. I want to get in and talk to both of you guys at the same time. That would be fun. As always, I love being on here. I love talking to you guys. Thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it and hope to do it a lot more often.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. I hope others follow your lead, other VIP members. Grab that link in my SmackDown
Sean.
report on the PWTorchVIP.com website, which is just for our VIP members. We want to, at least at this time, make it an exclusive perk of VIP members to come on screen with us like Sean just did. So if you're a VIP member listening to us, haven't joined the live YouTube show yet, consider yourself invited and look for that link and hop into the waiting room like Sean did to join the show. So we talked, I know Sean didn't hear the beginning of the show, but we talked a lot about the former Doudrop early in the show and her transition into Piper Niven, her chemistry with Chelsea Green. Didn't talk as much, but a little bit, Jason and I did, about Bayley. So Kevin, I'll throw to you first on those two topics, and then I'll throw to Jason for a little bit of expanded thoughts on, especially on Bayley, since we certainly talked a lot about Niven earlier.
Yeah, it's a weird thing with Bayley because, like, I think the fans definitely rallied behind her, but to me, she's still having a little bit of an identity crisis. Like, her first face run, I understood that character. To me, she was John Cena. She was the female John Cena. Mm-hmm. She was charismatic. She was very showy, very colorful, loved the fans, and they loved her back. This one's like, I don't know. It's like she's trying to have a little bit of an edge, but she's also trying to be lovable Bayley. But it just, I don't know. It's this weird kind of tweener gray area. And I don't even know if she knows exactly what she wants to do with it right now. I think she knows she has something. I think, people have rallied behind her and she finally got the ball. But I think she's still trying to find her footing personally.
Jason.
Yeah, I touched on this a little bit earlier. I have been less than impressed with her current run. And as Wade and I were talking about, the focus was on King of the Ring, and there wasn't really a lot for her to do. But yeah, I mean, she won at WrestleMania, and it should have been a bigger deal. I felt like, even though her title reign was rushed, Becky Lynch, they seemed to make more of that. Bayley was like, oh, you're the champion now. Okay, well, great. We appreciate you. And when we have something for you, we'll get to you. And it just didn't. I think there needed to be a change in her character. The role model thing ran its course. Damage control, I thought, ran its course. But it was almost too abrupt that she went from the role model, which was this, snide, sarcastic, mean girl, to all of a sudden slap the fans' hands. It seemed like it should have been more of a gradual thing, that maybe she could have come around and said, you know what, last couple of years, I kind of lost myself and I forgot what I'm in this business for. I just want to say thank you to everybody. But it was just like, it was like from cold to hot almost immediately. And it almost, sometimes I forget that she's champion because she isn't featured unless she's getting beat up by somebody lately.
Good point.
Yeah, you want to have a motivation and then a shift in who you are. Now, if you're popular doing a heel shtick, you know, and the fans kind of turn you babyface and you kind of keep doing it, but it comes at the expense of heel opponents, that can work. But when it's like I said about Bianca Belair on the EST, it was meant to be overly braggadocious, self-aggrandizing to a degree that's off-putting. And then you just keep doing it and say, well, now it's cool because I'm a big star. And Mercedes Moné has that issue in AEW right now with a lot of what she's doing. So with Bayley, yeah, I mean, and I will say there was a brief and perhaps forgettable moment in a Bayley promo after she turned where she did what you said, Jason, and did say, you know, something to the effect of, you know, I went down a path, my head was in the right place, but now I'm, you know, back to where I was. But the problem is there's nothing after that backs up that change in her kind of perspective as a performer. Like, you want her to now stand for something or stand against something and change her demeanor. And, you know, I mean, last week she did that ha 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 thing that she does that was meant to be obnoxious and grating, and she did it. And it's like, what instincts do you have with her years in the business if you're still, if you think that's something that shouldn't, if you don't realize that that's something that absolutely should have been retired and never shown up as a babyface. And so it does seem like it's a character that's in need of some attention and some direction and a greater sense of purpose. Initially, it was just fighting off Damage Control. They betrayed her. They were mean girls. She was on the outside. I thought it was relatable. You've got to transition out of that into something. And I want to see Bayley kind of be a more serious person and speak up about what happened to her and show some fire and drop some of the shtick that she did when she was doing the ding dong stuff. Kevin, you're nodding along. Your thoughts?
Ding dong, hello.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I not much to add. I 100% agree with you in every way.
Okay, let's. My topics will wrap up with this, and then if you guys have anything you want to add, you can. We didn't talk about this superfluous Andrade angel offer to Andrade. Hey, join us. Everything's forgiven. I didn't buy that this was anything anyone was supposed to take seriously. It felt sort of like just giving them something to talk about and do. I don't think anybody was buying the idea that Andrade would be like, oh, okay, you're forgiving me for not liking you and rejecting you. What do you mean you're forgiving me? I didn't do anything wrong. And so when he brushed past them, it was like, of course, it didn't feel like, I don't know. Like I said, superfluous. It didn't do anything for me. I don't know what it accomplished. It just seemed like it was more an attempt just to get some TV time to Andrade without asking him to do a lot of heavy lifting on the microphone. But I don't know if that's enough reason to do this angle. Jason, what did you think of
that? It's almost like just a rehashing of the LWO storyline with a member in, or then they may have turned against us, but what's okay, we'll just try. It seems like they're just changing out the characters. I'm interested what you guys think about Andrade, that they're kind of pushing him, airing for him because they want to cheer for him as a baby face, or are these fans cheering for him because he left, went to AEW and came back, and they're like, haha, we got him back. It moves, but there's not a lot of authenticity. It just seems like his personality.
All right. Mike Myers is making me miss him so much as a co-host on this show. And I don't know what we have to do to get him back. But Kevin, can you read the screen?
Oh, my screen is behind me. I'm literally looking at a camera.
So we need you. We need you for this will be a good moment on our show. Can you read the screen? Can you take a moment?
Yep.
For us here. Yeah.
All right. All I see is you saying, "Kevin, your screen froze for me." Oh wait, that's private.
Oh,
okay.
Oh,
Wait, here's comments.
All right. Mike Myers. It should be locked on the screen. I don't know if you can refresh.
If Kevin doesn't fix his left. All right. Wait.
Yeah, we did this on camera, Mike.
You're welcome.
Yes.
That was for you.
I am surprised I didn't notice that sooner. That's the type of thing. It's like Elaine on Seinfeld in traffic, yelling at that person whose dog had its ear flipped over. I relate so much to that. I would totally get out of traffic and knock on a car window to get someone to fix their dog ear if it was flipped over. So
the funny thing is, that would have irritated me if I saw it, and I didn't even realize that I was doing that.
Yes. Perfect. So yeah, Mike, love to have you on the show if you sometime will join us.
And your name is really Mike Myers. This is both a comedic and murderous royalty. So congratulations 2 times.
He's never heard that, Kevin. I'm sure he's like, wow, finally someone said that to me.
2 firsts in one night, the drawstring and a Mike Myers joke. You're welcome.
Yes. All right. Angel Andrade. Kevin, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't like it. I honestly, I haven't really liked anything Andrade's done since he comes back. I feel like he's just flailing and nothing's clicking. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I feel like Zelina is so underutilized. I would love to see them put back together. I mean, there was a while there when she was just fire on the mic and people were calling her the female Paul Heyman. And I would love to see that duo. I know they like rekindled with the LWO thing, but like I would love to see them get back together and give him a mid-card run with a mouthpiece. Personally,
I like that.
I just don't think anything right now is just not working for me.
I think Andrade's a good worker, but I mean, I've never felt Andrade has ever been underpushed because he's so lacking in certain ways that I think are essential to be and integrated into the top tier. I mean, I understand people want to see his matches, but you've got to pair him up with somebody in a tag team who can talk and project personality. I mean, it's not just the language; it's just he's not at all interesting. An edgy heel, a heel with a kind of a violent tinge edge to him, which is what they're trying to sell the new Bloodline having. That's the best role for him. But I mean, having him not in a heel group and we're supposed to root for him, I just don't see it. I don't see it. Yeah,
agree.
Anything else, Jason, that you want to bring up from the show that we haven't yet? The internet has gone from lagging to not lagging to lagging, and it's getting worse as we go here with Jason. So I will pass the question on to you, Kevin. Anything else you want to wrap up the show with?
My favorite moment of the entire night, which was Tommaso Ciampa seemingly slipping on a banana peel and flipping over his opponent hilariously. That was my favorite moment of the night.
We should have a favorite moment of the night. I liked Ciampa's intensity and in this match, and there was a comment early in the match that made me more interested in. Oh, it was Barrett. He said the personalities and approaches between Ciampa and Theory are as different as it gets, and he was talking about I like when they talk about the ring style, and Ciampa had a little bit more of an edge, bit more of a fierceness to him. That is, I think, such a key. Having him sit on the ring apron and clap like, no, don't do that.
Oh God.
Yeah, and I mean, just
so much.
Yeah. So if we can get Ciampa to seem a little more badass again, I would be I'd be happy with that, because otherwise, I mean, it's just sort of a sad closing chapter to him being a national TV wrestler. And I know he's got a lot of injuries and a lot of mileage and all that, but if you're going to utilize him, let him be somebody who's had got a little bit of a scary edge to them, and sitting on the ring apron and clapping with Gargano. Oh my God.
Let him go out on his own terms. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Let him try.
Exactly.
Just let him spread his wings.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Thank you, Jason. And thanks for joining us, Kevin. And thank you, Sean, for chiming in. It's been fun. I looked at the clock. I can't believe we're at 2 hours here. So this breezed by on the beginning of week 2 of our live YouTube post-show format. Again, I will encourage people to check out VIP membership. And I also encourage everybody to subscribe to our podcast. If you're discovering us or rediscovering us on YouTube, please also, if you listen to podcasts at all, subscribe to our podcasts. And all you have to do is search Wade Keller in your podcast app and subscribe, and you'll get content that is not elsewhere on YouTube. But we do have some things that are YouTube exclusive, including Rich Fan and I earlier today ended up doing a 12-minute hot take on the AEW television situation and whether it's time to panic or not with what's going on with AEW and TNT and all of that. So I encourage you to check that out on our YouTube page, but also subscribe by searching Wade Keller and PWTorch.
And you never know what could happen on camera. Sometimes drawstrings are up, sometimes they're down.
Absolutely. Yes. Let's see. I'm juggling all these graphics, trying to keep things rolling here. So we will end on that note with Sean endorsing everybody. Become a VIP member, amazing value. And we'll close with he says so much content. And then A. Milano says, love you guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for your support. It's been a fun first week here on YouTube for us. And we thank all our loyal long-term podcast listeners who continue to download our shows. Check out the Wade Keller Post-Show, Wade Keller Podcast, including the flagship Yesterday with Todd. That is podcast only. So search Wade Keller, subscribe to the Blue Logo Show, and we will talk to you all Monday night after Raw. And who knows what WWE has in store for us on that night. Thanks, everybody. I want Jason to wave before we leave. Well, let's see. He's probably waving, but there's a lag. There it is. All right.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.